Good morning and welcome to a new update. It's the day after the FOMC meeting. The Fed has spoken, we've got a result, and the price of Bitcoin has actually bounced up as the dollar has been showing some weakness, which is tremendous, and the bull cycle will continue. So in this update, we'll be discussing why Bitcoin remains bullish and what I think is going to happen from here, which we will also be discussing in the second update later today. But before we're going to continue, you know the drill. Don't forget to subscribe beneath, like this YouTube update, and also do not forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where you can find daily content on the crypto market. So when we are looking at the actual event of this week, the past few weeks, most of the investors and traders were actually looking out for what was going to happen in the Fed meeting yesterday. The expectations were that there will be hikes. The expectations were that we would have been an acceleration of tapering, and therefore the price has been dropping down heavily of the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets, right? So already a few weeks ago, prices started to drop even more because of the rumors going around that the Fed was going to hike and also to taper a bit more, given the fact that they are seeing an accelerated inflation and therefore they want to adjust their strategy. So before the actual event, we have seen that taking place, and because of that, I stated earlier that I expect the scenario to actually become sell the rumor, buy the news, in which people are assuming that we are going to have a heavier drawdown after the event takes place, but as a matter of fact, nothing new will come out and the price of Bitcoin will actually bounce back up, which we have been seeing. But now, what has the Fed stated in the actual event to do in the coming years? Well, first of all, they are going to hike 3 times in 2022 and they are going to hike 3 times in 2023. Nothing new, that was out already. They are also going to accelerate the tapering for a little bit, which is that right now the tapering happens with 15 billion per month, and they are going to double that to 30 billion a month. Still nothing really special, to be honest. And then finally, the key concern for the Fed is that they want to keep its interest rate at 0 to 0.25%, as it is committed to employing the full range of instruments available to help the US economy. And as we know right now that the Omicron variant is still going around, we might be getting a longer lockdown, we might be getting more years of those lockdowns. The actual hikes might not even happen. So their concern is that the economy keeps going, and that's why we are actually in this shit show because of that fact, in which people are getting squeezed if they are middle class, for instance. But as a key concern, the last one is important, as they want to keep the interest rates low, which means that for now they sustain with that strategy, especially given all the variance that we have in the market. So because of that news, Bitcoin bounced back up. Because of that news, equities have been bouncing up swiftly and the dollar has been showing some weakness. And the important part here is that equities are close to new all-time highs, while Bitcoin and crypto has been suffering heavily because retail is usually making very emotional decisions or emotion-based decisions, and that's why we have been dropping down heavily in the past weeks, because retail was expecting another drop to be taking place with this Fed conclusion. But as I think that we are getting into a bull cycle once again, because of this, we can just continue the actual bull cycle. It is time to look for those buys, to look for those dips, especially given that I've been stating the past weeks that those regions that we're currently in are regions where you should be looking at to buy your altcoins and your crypto and your Bitcoin. So let's look at the charts at this point, as those are going to tell us a lot about the price action. So when we're looking at the price action of Bitcoin, I've already concluded the fact that we most likely are going to bottom out relatively soon, given the fact that we are dropping down heavily with the RSI, through which we are approaching higher time frame support levels, and concluding that we're getting into that event that everyone is looking at, and usually such an event will dictate where the price is going to move from that point. And given the fact that we have been dropping into the actual event, the conclusion was that we most likely are going to get a sell the rumor, buy the news concept, which we actually have been getting. So that is great that we're currently bouncing back up, and even altcoins are showing way more strength at this point than what they used to be showing in the past few weeks. So that is also a great thing. Now, when we're looking at the higher time frames for Bitcoin, of course the trend is still downwards, right? So we're still making lower highs, lower lows, but we are bouncing back from the support once again. So we might be getting into a phase where we're actually looking at a higher low, or we're actually looking at a scenario that we have been bottoming out. In that case, we are looking at higher time frame support, which is still currently acting as one, and we're looking at some crucial resistance zones that we have to break through, and next to that we're still holding the support at 46.5, which is the one that I've marked previously too, which is important to sustain. And this candle that we see here was the candle after the FOMC meeting, which immediately bounced the prices upwards of Bitcoin, resulting in strength as we couldn't grant ourselves support at 47k. So what are we looking at right now? Well, clearly we've got a few resistance zones that we have to break through. We've got to break through these levels here that we've got. But I've already concluded that the moment that we break the first one, most likely that we're going to take some acceleration. I'm going to discuss that in a little bit, but first, the level that I want to see sustain for Bitcoin overall, that is the level that we've got here at 47.3. I think that after this retest, you clearly want to see this level sustain, and then we'll continue moving. However, the key point here is that most likely we are not going to get that retest, because the FOMC meeting was fine, the results are fine too, so the price action is bullish after that, and people are seeing that what came out of the FOMC meeting was already expected. So now we get into a phase where people want to rush in their positions, so usually the most obvious retest will not be done. So I think remaining relatively patient to 47.3k. I'm waiting for 47.3k. I'm not sure whether we're going to test that level, given the fact that we are testing the supports way already like 3 or 4 times, and now we've got the conclusion of the FOMC meeting, so the actual fear will just drain away. And from that perspective, I think we are more likely to just reverse the trend and start attacking the highs, and the more we get towards those highs, we're going to break through them. As a result, that we're going to keep continuing to the upside towards 56k. So the moment we are breaking the resistance zone here, I assume that we're going to accelerate, as there are many shorts piled up with stops above those levels, and the moment we crack through those levels, I think we're going to accelerate towards 54 or maybe even 56k, and then the sentiment will quickly switch towards a bullish one, which already seeing happening at this stage. So I believe that we are into a bullish continuation at this point, especially given the fact that I've been covering the DXY, and we have been covering this one as it was acting into a very important resistance zone, which we are currently rejecting from, and most likely we're going to consolidate or correct with the DXY at this point to retest the lower levels, and then the question becomes whether that is going to sustain for support, and if it does, if it's going to accelerate once again. If it's not accelerating, we might be even in for a longer bull cycle, but the more the dollar is going to show weakness, which most likely take or happen from here onwards, the better it will suit Bitcoin for strength overall. Looking at Ethereum, we even see more strength here, in which I've been marking a few levels for support. We are still trending south, but we have been testing levels for confluence. We've also been doing those retests previously, and I think that the retest is currently quite done. in which I'm looking for a scenario like this, in which we most likely are going to break out of this construction. Apologies. We're going to break out of this construction in which we're going to accelerate, and also Ethereum against Bitcoin has been making a beautiful retest here, through which the chances are quite likely that we're going to continue running, in which Ethereum against USDT will be leading the entire market at this point. Lower time frames, looking at a retest taking place around 3.9k, that would be fine if we retest somewhere in that region, and if we do, I think the chances are open towards 4.4k. So that's the update for today. I think we are bullish, and I'll be back later today to explain what I expect to see happening in the crypto markets.